I'm Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call Dawn of the Buddy Cop. The buddy cop film is a well-tread genre, and one where comedy is implied. We're all familiar with the lovable mismatching of the tightwad and the loose cannon who join forces to save the day and have some laughs along the way. One of the films in today's block, Lethal Weapon, became the standard bearer for the genre, but it was not without precedent. And all of today's movies help shape this genre, along with a little help from some romantic comedies of the 1930s. Two plainclothes detectives wreak absolute havoc in San Francisco, attempting to bring down a local gangster. They'll spend the weekend crashing cars, motorcycles, and vans, having shootouts in elevators, beating up tourists, and assassinating people in bathrooms, all in order to protect a gangster they hope to charge on Monday. Alan Arkin and James Caan star in 1974's Freebie and the Bean. When a prisoner has sprung from a chain gang, a gravelly, hungover San Francisco cop has to enlist the help of a convict to catch his man. But first, the cop and convict have to find a way to work together. Nick Nolte pairs up with Eddie Murphy in Walter Hill's 48 Hours from 1982. On his 50th birthday, a by-the-book detective is forced to work with a younger cop who's as wild and unpredictable as his haircut, and who just can't seem to shake that Aussie accent. The two stumble face-first into a massive conspiracy involving ex-Special Forces mercenaries running drugs into LA, just in time for Christmas. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson star in Richard Donner's Lethal Weapon from 1987. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Never touch my guns, never look at them. You understand that?
Well, then apologize to my goddamn lip.
You apologize about my gun.
You apologize to
You
this.
apologize about my gun. I apologize about your lip.
If you came here to find out something from me, you come to the wrong person, because I don't fuck my old friends over, man.
That's too bad, Reggie.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
All right, welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me as always is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian. I've been working on my American accent. I think I finally got it down. No worries, mate.
Is that a Mel Gibson thing?
Yeah.
He really still had the accent in this one, didn't he? Like,
Yeah.
it comes out pretty heavy.
Yeah. There's a couple moments where like, whoa, hello.
Today's show is, I guess, well, it's kind of a dual show. Today we're going to be looking at buddy cop films, which we're kind of a buddy cop thing going on here with the Grindhouse Institute.
Buddies? Buddy pod? I don't know.
As well as a simultaneous tribute to Richard Donner, who just passed away last week. Right. And we're going to be talking about three films: Freebie and the Bean, first time seeing this one, fantastic movie, 48 Hours, and Lethal Weapon. So this was real heavy-hitting block here. Action-packed and all hilarious. That was great.
Yeah, and, easy to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, I think, a change off of a couple of episodes we had where, maybe people at home aren't going to be following along. But, yeah, this is an interesting one. Just in terms of, like, setting the table a little bit, it's, like, an interesting genre. It's like, kind of, like, screwball comedies for dudes, right? It's
okay.
Like, screwball comedy was kind of a subgenre of the romantic comedy from the 30s. And normally, I think what people associate with it in their minds is like the pratfalls and the sort of madcap, like physical comedy, set pieces and things like that. Later in movies like What's Up, Doc, there's huge car chases and all this kind of stuff. And while that's sort of part of it, I think there are all these other like crazy specific parameters. It's like, there's often like sort of childless adults. They have pets instead of kids. It's revolving normally around sort of a courtship. They're pushing or subverting the expectations of gender roles.
This is the screwball comedy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And they often have this like dynamic of like a straight man and like the wild card, and they're I have to get unbuttoned up a little bit, and kind of like be able to like take it easy a little more. And then there's also a lot of like physical comedy. And I think in this instance, it's sort of like expressed through sort of action. But, also the buddy cop genre ends up taking that template, the sort of screwball template, and adding this like sort of bond of brotherhood instead of the courtship, maybe. And then it's like, the code of dudes. And they put them in explosive situations, and you'll often see them like going around doing crazy shit, like being allowed to blow things up and waving machine guns in crowds. And then, it's fine because they're cops. So it's fine to steal my car. Oh, you're a cop? Oh, that's fine. That's
I'm
cool.
commandeering this vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. I mean, you smashed your last one. My car's fine. Go ahead and take it. And it's funny because like that point in particular about like, the magic words of "it's okay, I'm a cop." Like I think Eddie Murphy's character brings it up in 48 Hours when they're heading into that honky tonk bar in the middle of San Francisco
with Peter Jason as the main bartender from John Carpenter movies.
Right. Oh, right. And the guy I often confuse for Peter Jason, Tom Atkins, is also in
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yeah.
Yeah. Tom Atkins, one of the most glorious kills on screen every time. Every movie he gets killed in. Just gets a good one. This one, through the eggnog he was drinking. Casually drinking eggnog.
Okay. So I think this is kind of the perfect episode for our year anniversary, which this is coming out on the first year of the Grindhouse. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Even though we didn't make 52 episodes. The interesting part is like in the first movie we did, or one of the first movies we did, which is Manchurian Candidate, they have a kill sort of like that, where it's like, Raymond, my boy.
The hell is that in your hand?
It's a pistol, sir.
Is that a silencer?
Yes, sir.
Why are you carrying a pistol? Raymond, what are you...
I don't think he was drinking that eggnog for any reason other than to pull off that bullet through the gag, or pull through the
exactly.
carton gag.
You're like, no, remember, it's Christmas over the course of a week. But like, so what's interesting is like, I think just...
More like Hanukkah then.
Yeah. The 7 days of Christmas. Maybe it's the European style. But so to tie all this all together, it was just that like, essentially, I think Lethal Weapon sort of embodies all this. It created the mold that the buddy cop would sort of follow from here on out.
With Rush Hour and those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. And Bad Boys and you name it. But what's sort of interesting is like exploring just like sort of how we got here and how we sort of built that template. And I think these three movies in particular are sort of the building blocks to get there.
Yeah, I mean, based on your description of the madcap comedy, I feel like our, the original film here in this block, or the first film in this block in, timeline-wise, Freebie and the Bean, felt more like a madcap comedy, like with the score and everything, but it definitely was leaning into the broier side of it, right? The male-focused side of it, the two dudes.
It's funny because, like, if you're looking at just the trajectory real quick, it's like Freebie and the Bean, it's like, it's madcap, it's insane. There's just car crashes that are just nuts.
Amazing stunts.
It's like stunts that are out of control. There's nothing that you're really taking too seriously,
I don't even follow the story, really.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Definitely.
But the Alan Arkin character, maybe you can, there's that moment where that was then played for laughs at the end, but like at the beginning, maybe you were kind of taking it seriously, where he's confronting his wife about, is she cheating or is she not?
Valerie Harper.
Yeah. What's Rhoda or whatever?
Exactly, playing a Mexican.
Or is she?
I don't know.
With an Italian accent? I don't know.
Oh, was it Italian? Was I totally off?
Well, it's hard to tell. Another thing maybe we'll get to. It's like it was lots of white people,
You're right.
playing Mexican.
Yeah.
So that one's like madcap comedy. 48 Hours is mostly kind of straight.
Yeah.
And, there are comedic moments in it, but it's mostly kind of just a straight sort of action.
It's a cop drama.
Drama. Exactly. Not that there's not comedy in it. There definitely is.
Oh, yeah.
But then you get to Lethal Weapon, and it's a real interesting balance of both. And in my mind, Lethal Weapon is funny. And that's what I think of. Oh, Lethal Weapon? Oh, that's funny. It's a comedy. But you watch it, you're like, oh, wait, no. There are certain moments, especially in the first one, where things get pretty dark. I mean, the scene in the first 10 minutes or whatever of like, actually, there's a suicide, and then there's like an attempted suicide. It's
Right.
like, man,
Back
this
to
is
back.
dark.
And Riggs throughout the entire movie is dealing with something, right? Like for the longest time he was the assassin in Vietnam, right? Isn't that what he was saying? He was the guy that could shoot guys from a distance and
fucking war criminal, like just like
right.
No,
yeah.
you know, he was like part of the Phoenix program, which is this actual terrorism program, sort of cooked up by the CIA to be happening in Vietnam, where they just go around like murdering people in villages.
They
and
were
stuff
assassins,
like that.
right? It was a group of,
but not like killing military targets, killing civilian targets.
oh,
on
so
purpose
just
to create terrorism.
to create terror. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
so then
Very
he was
cool.
he was definitely dealing with some shit. Yeah. Good thing we had, some like Three Stooges humor from him to kind of soften that blow. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Hey, you want to see crazy? I'll tell you.
Let's start with Freebie and the Bean, though.
Yeah.
First time hearing of this movie, first time seeing this movie. This is a movie that is going to be on constant rotation for me, for sure. Alan Arkin alone, and don't get me wrong, James Caan is hilarious in this as well.
Yeah.
Alan Arkin had me in stitches through this
Right.
entire movie. His response to things and his like grrrs, like he would literally grr at points, cracked me up, man.
Well, I told you, smart ass, but you don't listen. You know everything. You still think you're a goddamn motorcycle
I could
cop.
have made it in my Porsche.
It's a Ford.
I could have, though.
It's not your Porsche.
could have made it,
It's a
though.
Ford.
But yeah, I mean, this one had the most amazing stunts and car chases I've ever seen out of an action movie, let alone something like this.
This could have also been maybe influencing Blues Brothers. Like
Absolutely. Especially them firing their car through an apartment with those two old people just... The guy's like, here, use the phone. He didn't even say anything. But the way that they kind of walk out of the car when they're like all bent out of shape.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so good.
It's all right. You're police officers. Can I use your phone?
But yeah, I'm like you were saying, like there's so much going on in this movie that you kind of forget about. I don't know, story. And like I knew what they were doing, like in general. I mean, I knew their motivations because they talk about it individually. They had, Bean wanted to be a lieutenant, and Freebie wanted to go into not SWAT, Vice Squad. He wanted to be part of Vice Squad, right? Because that was going to give him a better pension at the end of his retirement or the start of his retirement and all that. But,
Yeah, was he saying that earnestly, or like
I don't know.
in the sense that he'd shake down people for money and like be able to get away with it because he's robbing
because it made
criminals,
good for
essentially.
jokes later on. Because like, oh yeah, you'd be great for Vice Squad then.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But I mean, they were after I guess a gangster who was into gambling.
Red Myers.
Red
right?
Myers. Everything kind of comes to this close. And it's like, yeah, this guy's dead. This guy's not. This guy might be. And it's like they're just shooting people in the middle of a damn football game, and like it's just insane.
Yeah. Well, okay, so going back a second, like the idea of like how the movie's constructed is very weird, and it's like, it's a lot of fun and it's very funny, but you also have to have sort of no short-term memory, and you're just like in a certain scene, and that scene itself is funny. Next scene, you don't know what you're doing there, but it's funny. Something's happening. It's funny, because like what happens is like I feel like there's a lot of like little setups to what they're doing. Oh, we're going to the dentist office to be able to like be the bodyguard for this guy. Like the mafia guy's in there in the dentist, and we're there to protect him. Like you didn't know what they were doing there. They were just like, at a dentist office, and they're just like riffing and hanging out, and they're like, oh shit, and you're like, wait. What? What are they shitting? What are they doing there? Who are these people? Like, what's going on? And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you're constantly sort of confused about like the ins and outs of what's going on. Like, oh, they're just beating up that guy with the blonde hair all of a sudden. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like there's just like every couple of scenes there'd just be like something going on. Like, oh, the bathroom thing, for instance, where they did a John Woo mafia hit on the guy like in the
They
in
took
the toilet.
that guy out.
I mean,
The door kind of came in on him. Like they just unloaded both barrels on that was just insane.
All right, Philip. Come out with your hands up and your pants down.
right. Or guns akimbo, blowing him away. And it's just like it's sort of not clear what's going on there. It's like, okay, was he part of the hit squad? Okay. And then, it's just after the dentist office, there's an insane car chase, like a car and a motorcycle chase. At one point, one car gets away, and then another car, he gets in a motorcycle chase about it. And then, Alan Arkin's chasing one guy through a kitchen in this extremely long, like kitchen fight. And I guess apparently off screen, James Caan was chasing the guy who took a shot at the mafia guy.
Right.
But didn't catch him.
No.
But we didn't have that information.
No.
It was just so the whole time you're kind of like trying to catch your footing. It's almost like the dream logic thing, but in a very frustrating way. Because like in the dream logic, you know what's going on. Now, when you're sitting there explaining it to somebody, like, oh, let me tell you about this dream, right? You have to like put so much context into it. No, this happened in like 2 seconds, and you just understood it.
Right.
But to explain it, you have to like talk about it so much. And this is like just the little slice without the explanation. It's like listening to someone else's dream logic.
Yeah, I feel like every scene was like a little slice. Yeah. It was its own self-contained thing, and you could kind of watch it almost vignette-y.
Yeah.
But in that kitchen scene, that for some reason, some of the pots that were being held, just like being hung, were full of sauce.
Yes.
Like it was like, do you just hang that up there? Was that warming or cooling?
It's like 10 feet in the air, and you just when you get up on a ladder to like ladle the sauce in, it's like, what is it doing up there?
Like the other cops come in, and Alan Arkin's like, he's probably alive, covered in red sauce. It just looks like a disgusting murder scene. He's like, call an ambulance.
Plugged like 3 times, like, and laying on the fryer or whatever. It was just like, he's probably alive.
Call an ambulance.
What for? Get me a large bun of the doggy bag. I'll take them with us.
But in terms of like sort of influences on sort of the genre and everything, in a scene with no context, while they're sort of riding up this like elevator to get to the crane in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Alan Arkin's like going crazy, and he's just like kind of screaming and going nuts. And and
I'm yelling. I'm making him feel nervous.
It kind of reminded me of the Lethal Weapon jumper scene or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they were way up there. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they were really up there.
Yeah.
And at one point, James Caan's like, how you feeling? Oh, a little woozy, little dizzy or whatever. I felt like sick to my stomach because Caan kept looking over the edge too.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would they cover you if you like one day you slipped?
Hey, I ain't gonna fall. I'm careful.
How about if you got pushed off?
What are you doing?
Huh? I'm getting crazy up here. Where's Motley?
But that guy, Whitey, later on, they showed up to his apartment and they were just chatting before they like knocked on the door. Whitey comes to the door. They're like, hey, Whitey. Boom! They like socked him right through the screen.
Punch him like through the screen. Yeah, exactly.
And then the second shot, they cut to him just falling backwards into the couch. I laughed so hard. I was tired. Oh man, that was great.
Hey, why do you...
The violence in this, I mean, this is a real dark comedy. I mean, there is killing, there is blood, there is violence.
Right.
This is a brutal film, really, when you if you wanted to describe it to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, and the stunts are insane. And like, you imagine like how much work that would have taken to pull off. And they kind of like come out of nowhere sometimes, like that truck that flipped over, or like at one point there's like they are doing a car chase, they're going down the wrong way on a one-way street, and then a car out of nowhere on the other side just like spits up on top of like 3 other cars and lands on top of it like like monster truck rally style. It was, or like a demolition derby style. Yeah. It's like
that's I think how the description was on the streamer that I rented it on. Like one of them was like these guys just running through San Francisco like a demolition derby, and I'm like, yeah, that's a great description.
Yeah.
But right before that, they completely trashed the car they were in. You saw both the tires go. The car's like down on its axles, like just like in half, and then they stop on that one way and just kind of like let these cars like unfold in this massive crash pile up.
I love how they're like, okay, well, the whole front of the car is kind of ripped off, but let's see if we can drive it. And they drive about half a block. The fucking wheels literally fall off.
There are some great visual gags in this. I liked the shootout that was on the elevators that was like really too slow. And it was those two slow elevators, and it's like you get the wide shot of both of them, and they're just taking shots at each other.
Right.
Like, that was great.
Oh, yeah, okay. That set piece and the sort of motorcycle chase set piece where the van sort of like jumped off of this like, ledge, like, I don't know what, a full story down.
Yeah.
And then instead of him on the motorcycle doing that same jump, he like, bailed. And the motorcycle went flying. So both of those two pieces really reminded me of like True Lies. Like,
oh yeah,
wasn't there that elevator set piece where they're shooting at one another in True Lies?
That's right.
And then like
totally
and
he's on a motorcycle, or he's on a horse.
And then later he's on a horse. Yeah, and the bad guy's on the motorcycle, and the bad guy does it on the motorcycle and the horse like chickens out, quote unquote. Yeah,
because I think there were similar glass elevators too. Like because he was in there with the horse, right?
Right.
Press the button for the top floor, please.
The sort of shootout at the very end in the ladies' room with the David Bowie doing karate guy.
Solid roundhouses.
Yes. and I love how they were just very casually pulling off the earrings and the eyelashes and waiting for James Caan to like recover so that he could do another like couple roundhouses to the face, or whatever. which I guess kind of like reminds me a little of the Mr. Jacob fight at the end of Lethal Weapon, where it's just like this unnecessary
Mr. Joshua,
right.
Mr. Joshua, yeah. No, totally. It was
Joshua
that
fight.
That was kind of They Live too, right? They Live fight, man, because they went on for a long time and no one would jump in. He's like, I got him myself.
Exactly. Well, but he's also like, tag me in, Riggs, tag me in. No, but the thing that kind of reminded me of is like there's just like sort of unnecessary like fight at that point in time, but it was like just to like sort of prove I don't know what who's like the toughest guy in town or whatever. Is it James Caan with the battleship shoulders, or this
and the best suits?
This character that you didn't really know.
I loved his outfits. I loved how they had him dressed. You're talking about, or you mentioned the straight guy versus the wacky guy in these comedies or whatever. Like they had them dressed like that, And,
right.
And Alan Arkin had the black suit on with white socks on, and Caan even makes a comment to him. He's like, "Look at you! Look at what you're wearing." And then, but you see James Caan, he looks like the Riddler. He's got like,
yeah, the Riddler in like earth tones or whatever, the 70s earth tone thing. Speaking of that dynamic, it was weird because there'd be a couple times where it's like, okay, here's the obvious pairing. Everything Alan Arkin does is he wants to be kind of by the book, and everything James Caan does is just the freewheeling, slick character, kind of embodied later by maybe Axel Foley or something. Just everything sort of revolves around him and his way of cutting corners and doing whatever he needs to do. But then out of nowhere, they would like kind of flop positions and like oh, let's just follow the rules on this one, or let's do this, or let's do that. And it's like
indecent exposure? What the hell are you guys talking? What are you, crazy or something? Huh? What is it, some kind of a gag?
No, sir. It's not. You unzipped your fly there in the park. We saw you.
I unzipped my fly?
Oh, yeah, we saw you. Yeah.
Back to the little shootout in the bathroom. The whole thing that I wanted to bring up was just that that very staccato, bizarre editing of like James Caan, shooting this dude like 4 or 5 times, and every time he got shot, there'd be kind of like this punch in, and there's this jump cut type of thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. Michael Mann did that exact same style or that same gag in Manhunter. It's sort of the end of Manhunter during the In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida scene.
Yeah.
If you remember that. And it's like...
I do remember that, yeah.
As the Tooth Fairy is getting plugged, it was just like these really, stark jump cuts to him, like, having different reactions to getting shot and like kind of moving and like, you know, it's like it was very interesting like to see that done before Manhunter. You know what I mean? Like I saw Manhunter and I was like, man, I've never seen anything like that before. Like this very bizarre, almost expressionistic, like can't quite take it as realistically as we've been taking other pieces of the movie.
Because it wasn't that consistent editing throughout. That was its own thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. You just brought like 5 movies into my brain at once when you were talking about that. So let me take first of all.
Let's break it down. Yeah.
So the Tooth Fairy in Manhunter was also in Last Action Hero.
Oh right, yeah.
Right, and he was also the bad guy in the movies, but he was a good guy in real life. Whatever how that movie works. And the main commissioner or chief of the police was the same guy from Lethal Weapon. I'm sorry, from 48 Hours. And so, Slater! And he played the same character in Last Action
Maybe
Hero.
like shatter the windows.
Exactly. Get your ass in here. But then he was the same guy. So like all of these things just kind of came together in one in my brain, and I had to get that out because I felt like I was going to get a nosebleed.
Also, so this is the second time I've seen Freebie and the Bean, and because some of the specifics are so hard to follow, I think plot-wise,
even the
a
second
lot of it
time
just gets jettisoned out. Yeah, even the second time. But I mean, what I'm saying is like because the first time I watched it, it wasn't like sort of moving its way into long-term memory because it was so difficult. It was as if I was watching some of these things for the first time, and the whole revelation about I don't know what she was, the wife or the mistress of Red Myers, and then their captain, like, no, baby, no.
Didn't
and like,
weren't they like introduced in the last scene?
Well, I don't think so. I think in that party when they're going to get, $6,000 worth of, cold crab or whatever it was, like,
right.
She was supposed to be there. But all these dynamics between the captain and this person, and like the fact that she was the one who planted the thing in the trash in the very beginning, the whole thing, like it was all just being sort of like laid out at the very end, and you were like, it was sort of information overload in a movie where it was like it was taking so much length to keep you in the dark.
Yeah, and it took it real seriously at the end too, before the very last scene. But she was like, well, because the gangster died of a heart attack. And so they
off screen.
Off screen. They wheel him out on a stretcher, and then she's like, "You told me that he would just get 3 to 5 years. Like we planted this stuff." And I'm like, "Whoa, that got real serious." Like I felt really bad for her. And that guy obviously wasn't gonna end up with her, but I had no idea that there was a relationship there until that last scene. So if they talked about it during the $6,000 worth of delicious lump crab or whatever they're eating.
Yeah. Insert actual quote here.
Did you get the cracked crab?
Yeah, 200 pounds.
From Jurgensen's? 200 pounds of cracked crab? From Jurgensen's, you know what that's worth?
Oh, I can't.
Well, you can't.
That was the first time we saw that person, that character, and I think we were supposed to understand that her relationship to Red Myers at that scene. But, I was still like, it's like, what's going on here?
That must have been something previous in the movie that was on the cutting room floor or something. Maybe it was scripted or...
Right. Yeah. Or it's like, yeah, who knows? Maybe maybe it was one of those decisions where it's like, hey, the movie's running a little long. Why don't we just cut some stuff out of it? You'll be able to get it.
Figure it out.
You'll be able to get it. Yeah.
But from a technical standpoint, though, you mentioned the editing at the end, but I'd say the editing throughout this film was awesome, even cutting on the comedy and everything.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to call out the cinematography, which was outstanding. Laszlo Kovacs did this one.
Right. Okay.
Ghostbusters, I believe he also did Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The shots of the city and, like the crane ups on like certain hills in San Francisco really gave like the whole... made the city a character like we've talked about in other episodes. Yeah. And this one in particular, I think, really highlighted how hilly and windy and trafficy San Francisco can be. And it's like they really did it in within the city and really showed that off in the shots.
That aspect of it, like showing off the city versus not, I feel like 48 Hours definitely did that a little more, especially in the first
Same
maybe
city.
20 minutes. Yeah, exactly. We got 2 San Franciscos and an L.A.
We're staying in California, but yeah, north and south.
Yeah. The beginning of 48 Hours, like you're really seeing it, like when Nick Nolte is leaving his like girlfriend's apartment.
Yeah.
And there's that, I don't know, it's 200 millimeter lens that
God,
looking like
beautiful.
6 blocks away, and you see the insane dips in the road and whatever.
Yeah.
On those hills. I know what you're saying about Freebie, but I feel like Freebie is what you'd get if everyone lived in San Francisco and they didn't even notice the city anymore, versus like maybe 48 Hours where they were kind of showing the different landscape and everything.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah. Which I guess kind of works, for both of those. You consider the point of view of Freebie and the Bean are 2 cops that are ingrained in the city, right? They know every square inch of that city, and so might as well just trash the thing.
They're not constantly having to show Coit Tower or the Golden Gate Bridge, or like, oh no,
because that's the touristy stuff, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We just cross the bridge just to get places, but
that's just my commute.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, exactly.
I'm a police officer.
I'm with... Screw it!
This is the first time I've seen, well, outside of like Elf, I guess, but this is the first time I've seen James Caan in a role like this. That was,
yeah,
I mean, so
comedic.
close to the time he did Sonny Corleone as well.
Yeah, it was like 2 years later.
I mean, this is 74, so
yeah, this maybe same year as The Godfather 2.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so 2 years before that, he was Sonny, the real dick Corleone. The real hot-headed Sonny. That's I don't know if you read the book too, but he really nailed that character. And to see him in this, basically improvising, and they had to have been improvising, like, because there was just a lot going on that they were just kind of reacting off of each other really well. And
right, exactly.
He fucking nailed it. He was hilarious in this. He was standing up to Alan Arkin, who I think Alan Arkin, I think he's hilarious. Like, I think
Absolutely.
he's some of his the mannerisms that he's got in other movies that he's in, but this one especially, this was very physical for him, and I think he nailed it. Like, just like how worried he would get, and like it's just so great. Questioning his wife, I thought that was a great scene, and I don't feel like that scene was ever really resolved. I don't feel like he never really got a straight answer out of her, but he kind of did. He's like, you're a smart girl, you're a smart woman.
It's because, like, essentially Freebie was getting in his head and putting things that that weren't necessarily there into it, and then, like, he goes to confront all these things, and she's got answers for all of them because there's nothing going on. Right?
She had the answers, yeah.
Yeah. and it took him so long to get there because, he had already built it up in his mind that, she was cheating on him and all these things. And
where'd your thing go? What thing?
The thing! The thing! The thing! You mean my douchebag?
It's now a hydroponic water plant thing.
Man, that's another thing that was really funny, was like that everyone, from top to bottom, on the police force or not, was sort of imported directly out of Brooklyn or whatever into San Francisco because all their, like, accents were so New York.
Especially James Caan.
Or Mo Green, another...
that's right. Yeah,
D.A. Mo Green, another Godfather.
Was he like the district attorney or something, I feel like? Yeah.
Oh, and a third Godfather thing, in the sort of ambulance ride at the very end.
Yeah.
Before Alan Arkin...
wakes up,
reveals that he's been fucking with him the whole time. Yeah. It's like, what? You what? You what?
Are you fucking with me right now?
Yeah. But before that reveal, as James Caan is sitting there in the ambulance being sad, we're hearing that sort of, like, I don't know, mandolin music, and it's playing almost the Godfather theme. It's like the sound-alike, reality TV version of the Godfather theme. And,
the one you find on 5 Alarm.
Exclusive.
I'm hungry.
What?
I gotta have a taco.
Shall we move on to the template for Predator?
Oh, good call. Yeah. 48 Hours. Absolutely. Let's move on to that. I hadn't seen this movie since I was very young. It's been a long time, but I'd seen this movie quite a few times when I was young. I used to love this movie. I probably shouldn't have been watching it as a kid, to be totally honest, but I always loved this one.
You shouldn't be.
Watching it again, I think you're absolutely right. I think that this is not a far departure from, but it definitely doesn't go into the comedic route as, Freebie and the Bean, definitely
or
not.
as strongly or whatever, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, this is really like a cop drama or procedural, if you will, of
it's like a thriller,
yeah,
and it's almost like film noir,
sure,
but maybe the comedy aspects of it kind of take it out of there a little bit, but like the whole setup with the Eddie Murphy character, like, it feels extremely film noir. Like,
yes.
Or actually the very opening where it's like, Billy named the same thing.
Yeah, he's still Billy. He's always going to be Billy.
Yeah. Oh my God. When Billy's getting blown away at the end, his laugh, I mean, it's obviously the same actor, and okay, he's going to have the same laugh, but like his laugh was so iconic in Predator, and it was the same. He pulls out the gigantic, like,
same
Rambo knife. Yeah.
Same knife. The Bowie knife or whatever they call it. Yeah, it was the same. I was waiting for him to cut himself and to show the...
Oh, as he's waiting for the monster.
Billy, you're going to lose.
That guy is awesome. And James Remar, I feel like they just kind of, Walter Hill, obviously, they just poured it over a lot of people from, the Warriors into this, with James Remar, obviously. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think that guy can be put in anything, really. Yeah.
I was like, man, where have I seen him kind of recently? And it wasn't that recently, but it was kind of recently in Dexter. He was his dad.
The dad,
or whatever.
yeah. Teaching him the ways of keeping the crime scene clean. Yeah.
Right. Listen, you need to use your serial killer habits for good.
Yeah. You can chase down bad people, Dexter.
But I have no moral compass, Dad. Don't worry about it, Dexter.
That's your dark passenger. Yeah, man. This movie felt like, obviously, again, it's Walter Hill, so it did feel like the visual style kind of matched The Warriors. It felt like that to me. Kind of that gritty, almost documentary, if you will, view of, the city and the action and everything. But, again, Eddie Murphy, I didn't realize that this was his first movie. I think you mentioned that on the last one. Yeah, he's so good in this.
Eddie Murphy's first movie. I think also Joel Silver's first movie.
Also, Joel Silver produced two of these films that we're talking about today. Did that guy make $1 bazillion in the 80s? Oh my God. And every single one of these movies was huge.
Right. Yeah, you have to imagine so. Or he wasn't negotiating the right way. Because
I didn't realize that he produced 48 Hours, and when I was watching the credits, I saw, I'm like, oh my God, I know he did Lethal Weapon. And I knew he did a lot of those kind of movies after that, but I was like, I didn't realize he did.
Die Hard, and I mean, it's like every action movie in the 80s,
Bang.
The Matrix maybe, yeah.
I think he did do The Matrix, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So he's probably not poor.
Yeah.
But they have David Patrick Kelly, must have had a bum ticker, from Dreamscape.
Yeah.
Oh, and this one predates Beverly Hills Cop, but they have the bad guy from Beverly Hills Cop, which is Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Kind of getting blown away.
Yeah, he didn't have too much of a role in this one. He was fodder, ammo fodder at the beginning. But
yeah, for James Remar to show off what a badass he is.
But I like that actor. He's fantastic. Jonathan
Banks?
Yes, Jonathan Banks.
Yeah.
He is... I loved him in Breaking Bad, obviously, but I also loved him in Beverly Hills Cop. And I thought, watching this again, I'm like, oh, I forgot he was in this. I was like, oh, maybe he's in it for a while. It's good to see him. Boom, he gets blown away in the first 5 minutes or that first shootout. I'm like, okay. But he did do a great job in that. Yeah.
Hey, Aldrich, need any backup?
No, Jack, please. You make me nervous. You know that.
Another, just go back to the Predator thing for a second. I don't know if you caught this, but at the very end and sort of the alley shootout in the steamiest alley in San Francisco. Right before James Remar grabs Eddie Murphy, the sort of build up to that moment, the music sounds a lot like Predator as well. It's really interesting. Like there's a lot, I think, that sort of like made its way over into that movie.
I like that ending. I thought it was, like you said, it was very steamy, but it definitely worked for the drama of it or the suspense. But you see Nick Nolte kind of walk through the mist at the end, like just like this.
You're like, wait, who is that guy? Oh, it's Nick Nolte. Oh, that was weird. He looked really different. As a kid, I used to get him and Gary Busey confused a lot.
Yeah.
And not when you hear their voice or anything, but just like, I don't know, there's something about the sort of square-jawed blonde guy, and it's just like they kind of look similar, cast from a similar mold, let's say. But for whatever reason, like as he was coming through that mist, looking more badass than usual, he looked kind of different. It was interesting.
I don't know if they were maybe shooting on like a wider lens and it made him look taller or something,
right,
or
like
there was
compressed,
something
his features,
but it was just like a really cool shot.
Yeah.
Are you crazy, man? I was just bluffing.
The racism in these films is really high in the first two that we talked about, and then it slowly gets thinned out a bit, but it's pretty bad in 48 hours.
Actually, all sort of race is just erased from Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yeah.
I mean, they don't ever mention once that I can recall anyway that Murtaugh's black or that his family's black or whatever.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like they're like Lethal Weapon was like, oh, we're colorblind. We're not going to talk about it. 48 Hours. I mean, it was part of it though. It's like
right.
It was part of the commentary they were making as well, and like
right. He even mentions that he was playing a role when Nick Nolte was saying that racist jargon to. I want to call him Axel every time, but Eddie Murphy's character, when he was talking to him, he was like
Reggie,
yeah. When he was talking to Reggie, and he was like, I apologize, I'm just kind of playing the part, I think is what he says, or something similar to that, and it was like, oh.
I was just doing my job, keeping you down.
Yeah, well, doing your job don't explain everything, Jack.
Yeah, you're right.
But also, Nick Nolte's character starts off as a complete fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Now he kind of softens over time because they get to know and like one another as the story goes along. But Nick Nolte's like shitty and kind of like starting fights for no reason with his girlfriend, and then he's shitty to his coworkers. He's shitty to fucking everybody around everybody all the time.
He's not a very likable character.
Yeah. And that's part of it. And I think him kind of coming around as maybe the audience would be coming around on him a little bit. It is funny because ostensibly he's the sort of hero you're following.
Yeah.
But he's not really, because the audience kind of hates him in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to, I think.
Yeah, and I did. I mean, especially watching this now with a different lens than just a kid wanting to see, gunfights and boobs. This was like.
Is that the name of the episode?
No one will know what it's about, but the clicks will be amazing. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, watching this again, I'm like, there weren't many people in this movie that I did like character-wise. I mean, I liked, Reggie's character, Eddie Murphy's character, I did, but, at the same time, I didn't really care for who we were following the whole time, Nick Nolte. Kehoe, who ends up being a bad guy in the second movie, spoiler alert. The guy that works, the next desk over in the precinct.
The guy from Blade Runner, the same
Yes,
year,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Kehoe was the Iceman in the second movie. And I watched this one in particular because I'm like, in the second movie, Eddie Murphy calls him out as being the Iceman. And I was watching this carefully to make sure that Eddie Murphy did not meet him in the first movie, and he doesn't. So it did work for the second movie because I'm like, didn't he see him? In the first one, didn't they interact? But they never interacted, and they made him the actual the hidden villain, the twist. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry to ruin a 30-year-old movie for everyone, but
you bastard.
It's amazing how far a gun and a badge will take some guys.
Bullshit attitude and experience is what gets you through. Come on.
Oh, also, I wanted to bring up that Tasha Yar from Star Trek The Next Generation is in 48 Hours. She's one of the girls that were dating either Billy or James Remar's character. They were the ones that kind of shoved the door in Nick Nolte's face at the beginning. They're like, no,
the
they don't.
blonde one with the bat or the other one?
The blonde. Not the dark-haired girl.
She had a bat.
Yeah.
And then okay. Right.
She was the head of security for like the first 2 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then she went off to do film, and she ended up doing
one's for you, Adam.
Pet Sematary. And
really?
She gets killed pretty bad in Pet Sematary. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Police! Nobody move!
Stay where you are. Okay, you just better drop it or he's gonna get another one.
I said police. Now put the goddamn gun down.
Don't give me that police shit. You drop it.
I don't feel like this one plays up the car action like Freebie and the Bean does. Freebie and the Bean is an all-out car chase movie, in my opinion. You know, it definitely falls in that. This is more of the shootouts and the really gritty, nasty shootouts too.
Yeah,
and they really give up the squibby, blobby blood in this one. You know, they don't hold back on any of that shit. Like it's this is a good one. Definitely an R-rated film for the kids.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when Billy gets blown away on a bare chest.
That's what I'm talking. I mean, you see holes in his chest. Yeah, bare chest, like you were saying. I mean, that's
right.
It's gross. That's great.
Oh, so good. But I think, you know, just maybe overall as a point of contrast with Freebie and the Bean, or at least the way the movie is assembled and sort of put together. This one definitely gives you a better sense of place and what the characters are doing at any given time. You know, even though there are a lot of sort of names and there's a lot of maybe, intrigue and whatever, like, you know, who was ripping off who and, what was David Patrick Kelly? Who was that? Maybe you don't remember all the names. But even so, you are always
clear.
feeling like oriented all the time.
All the time, yeah.
And, you know, you understand when they have their version of the They Live fight, like, you think you can take me? And like all this stuff.
That was awesome. Yeah.
I fight dirty.
And then, you know, the movie has this really interesting way of sort of dealing with a lot of things. I mean, again, they touch on how sort of, casually racist everyone is all the time. But then also, like I brought up earlier, Eddie Murphy's sort of speech talking about like, well, look, I mean, you can give me a gun to make me feel more safe. But if I'm in there waving a badge around, well, they're going to have to respect me, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it becomes a different situation. You're not able, or, you're not allowed to treat, someone who announces themselves as a cop the same way you could treat other people. And, that aspect of it, like, they kind of touch on this sort of like interesting, cultural level that basically I think some of the other movies they, kind of gloss over. Because, this movie not only is sort of a thriller and whatever else, but, it has something to say and something going on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they put two of the scenes were, mirror image bars of each other, but one of them was very white and one of them was very black, right? Like it was like those two bars couldn't be more different. And then, but you saw the dynamic between, how Reggie would handle that versus, Nick Nolte. And that was they each had to handle their respective environments differently. But I love how Eddie Murphy handles the honky tonk bar. Oh, it God, is I know. That's one of my favorites.
The shot glass and whatever.
Yeah,
like, can I get a vodka?
Shit.
Oh, you want a Black Russian?
Black Russian. You would have said Black Russian. That's a funny joke. I get it. I'm black. No, that's funny. Look at here.
Fucking heard of them now, man?
As the first movie, you can kind of see a little bit that it's a little different than the way he'd be treated, maybe just a year later, 2 years later. I mean, what was his next movie? It wasn't Beverly Hills Cop, was it? Oh, no. Next one was Trading Places. And then it's basically Beverly Hills Cop. The way that the sort of like, camera treats him and everything else. Like in this one, like they were showing how much taller Nick Nolte was, just as a small example, and not giving him the movie star entrance the way that he even gets in Trading Places, where it's this whole set piece of him pretending to be blind or whatever, or any other movie sort of after that, Coming to America or Beverly Hills Cop, whatever. The way that cinematically oftentimes a movie star is portrayed versus a non-movie star. It is interesting to see someone as huge in our mind as Eddie Murphy is to be treated as a non-movie star on camera.
I mean, he must have made an impact, right? Because
just
right after this, he's got Trading Places, and the list goes on after that.
Well, this movie was super successful, and well known and whatever, and I'm sure it didn't hurt his stardom in that sense,
No, and I thought he played it well. He didn't just play it for laughs at all. I mean, he genuinely played this character.
Balance. Actually, that's a great point, because like I think in Dolomite Was My Name, everyone was excited about that because he was playing sort of a non-comedic role. But I don't know. In this one, he also wasn't playing a super comedic role. I mean, like he had comedic moments,
right,
for sure. But like he was also playing certain things straight, and it wasn't as if him doing that later in his career, he was somehow breaking a mold,
right?
Because right off the bat, he was doing that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I liked how they had Eddie Murphy. He was actually. He handled all the situations really well. He wasn't just doing them, he wasn't doing them in a funny way or like solving things in a funny way. He was actually solving them like how you'd solve them,
Right.
And he did. He played it straight, but I think that they might have let him run a little bit, be Eddie Murphy a little bit here, right? You can't totally get out of that, but if he's improvised,
he's got all the jokes about the suit, and he's like, he has to look good and all this stuff. And like he's like, oh, you don't see many black guys driving foreign cars, and he's like, yeah, well, they sold the last beat up blue Cadillac to you.
Yeah, well, I had no choice. Some white asshole bought the last piece of shit sky blue Cadillac.
Are you ready now to move on to the movie that inspired Predator 2?
I absolutely
moving from the movie that inspired Predator.
Absolutely,
the movie that inspired Predator 2.
This is very interesting. I never put these together, but that's great. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have either if we hadn't just watched Predator 2 again recently. But we got Los Angeles, Danny Glover, and Gary Busey. Okay,
it's a good start.
Yeah. I guess Danny Glover's on the LAPD again. And, Gary Busey is part of some secret government organization.
Exactly, yeah. It wasn't CIA. It was at Project Phoenix. Phoenix? Was that?
Well, because he was in Special Forces or something. But, now he's a private, contractor or some shit. But
a merc.
Yeah. But essentially, I mean, they're running drugs for the CIA, essentially, in Lethal Weapon. It's a private enterprise, but as Tom Atkins explains, it's coming in through the CIA. So that's fun.
This movie it starts out real dark. I forgot how dark it is. Like you said, you've got the suicide at the beginning, which is incredibly graphic. Like you see her hit the entire car. It's like it's a very.
It's definitely it's graphic for not showing the blood and guts in the same way. It's like you see the interior of the car and have it cave in.
Amazing shot, yeah.
And it gives you that sense in your stomach. Like you see her fall for hours. Yeah. I mean, it's just like
there's a shot of it's just like a POV shot, and it's just camera against the windows of the building, and the windows are going by real quick. Yeah. You don't see her, but you just see how fast she's falling. It's really disorienting.
Or even before she steps off, it's like as she's stepping up on the ledge, you get that like queasiness, like, and you're tingling in the bottom of your feet, and you're just like, oh my god,
she's not gonna be able to balance on that thing, that little rail. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it starts out dark, and then we meet Riggs. I mean, the first time we meet, is it the first time? Or maybe it's the second.
First time I think we see him just waking up naked.
Oh yeah,
and he's kind of like wandering around cracking a beer open first thing in the morning.
Yeah, clearly.
Kind of like Nick Nolte pouring whiskey in his coffee in 48 hours.
They do a good job of setting Riggs up, the character, right away, and we know that he's pretty damaged just by that scene alone. And then when we see him after that drug bust, and he's got, the picture of his wife, a loaded gun with one hollow point bullet, to make sure that it blows out the back of his head, as he says. Yeah. And he's, going from in front of his forehead into his mouth.
I know.
That was a brutal, brutal scene, and that's far from comedy.
No, totally. And they took their time with it, right? It's like that whole part of it too. It wasn't sort of like glossed over. I think maybe the resolution to his suicidal ideation happens pretty quickly, or less satisfactorily from where we see him in the beginning. But the setup for it, which is what we're talking about here, is definitely that they're not playing around with that one. I mean, it was pretty dark.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to hear that sometimes I think about eating a bullet? Huh? Well, I do.
But I mean, I liked seeing the family life. You had the straight-laced guy in Murtaugh, and he's got a family of 4 kids. He's got a huge family. Beautiful house.
Being renovated. It's like
right.
The scene at the very beginning when he's wandering around his house and there's just
hole in the wall,
insane stuff going on. He's like his kids wake him up and he's in the bathtub and he's trying to get his day started and there's just this insane crowd. It kind of reminds me a little of the scene where we first see the house in Home Alone, where it's it's just a fancy orphanage. There's
exactly.
all kids, no parents. Yeah, I mean, it's just this and there's neighbors' kids wandering around. Yeah. So he's
sending them home.
He's got the circus.
Go home, go to dinner. Yeah, they've done that in 16 Candles. There's a chaotic house. Caddyshack. It's another one, another chaotic house. Yeah, I love those setup scenes. To
right.
Characterization or building character that way, and I think that it really did a good job. Plus, he was in the tub, and his whole family comes in and wishes him a happy birthday. He looks he's it's kind of what he left alone in the tub, but he handled it well. Yeah.
Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you.
I wish. I'm not gonna tell you.
Oh, come on.
Another thing I forgot that sort of connects us to Predator a little bit is Shane Black, who was on set to sort of punch up the Predator 1 script.
Mm-hmm.
Did he work on Predator 2? I don't think so, right? He just did the
I don't think I saw his
most
name.
recent Predator.
But this is his. Lethal Weapon is all his.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's obviously his because, it's a Christmas movie.
Christmas, yeah.
So all of his tropes, all of the Shane Black tropes kind of come into being in this movie, right? It's we got, Christmas, we have the, the 2 unlikely partners, and inevitably in the third act, the bad guy ends up grabbing a family member of one of the partners to be a part of the end of it. I mean, in all of his movies, right? It's Last Boy Scouts like that, Long Kiss Goodnight. I mean, you name it. It's Nice Guys even, all those movies kind of have that same sort of dynamic.
The hostage situation.
Yeah.
We don't want your daughter. We just want to know what Hunsaker told you.
It's funny because the main villain in this, that colonel or general that just wears the turtlenecks and tells all the mercs what to do.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Liar Liar that Jim Carrey basically calls a pontificating bastard and goes through this whole thing. So it was kind of hard to take him seriously in this, knowing that he played that later on.
He's a pedantic, pontificating, pretentious bastard, a belligerent old fart, a worthless, steaming pile of cow dung.
But Gary Busey, in my opinion, was a great villain in this, and also a great nemesis to Riggs. They were kind of similarly built, similar stature, and then that made for a really good fight at the end, I think.
Yeah. You always knew that Mel Gibson was going to win because he had the awesome hair.
Yeah, that mullet,
to
propel
him.
No one can pull off a mullet. And when he's going to take down the jumper, you get a good shot. It's all mullet. and it's like when he's climbing up next to the guy, I mean, it's a good 6 to 8 inches off the back of his head, man. Like that's a
mullet. Speaking of Predator, he's got the the back of his hair.
It's more like the alien. He's like the xenomorph. But I mean, if anyone can pull off the mullet, like his is more of the moulet. Like it's more of like it's more of a classy mullet. Like, but man, I mean that obviously a sign of the times. But I mean, he was shredded up in this movie. Like they had him like physically fit, and definitely he was still speaking with an Australian accent. Like he was like right off of Mad Max. Like you could hear it. Yeah,
he seemed to have gotten rid of that more recently. I mean, even in the latter movies, I feel like maybe it's gone by the second one.
I think even in 2, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is pretty noticeable in a couple moments here.
The guy shot me.
Yeah, what right?
The same albino jackrabbit son of a bitch that did Hunsaker.
You sure?
I'm sure, man. I never forget an asshole.
I am excited to get into 2 one of these days because that's when they introduced Joe Pesci's character, and he's a great addition to the storyline.
Was it 2 or did he come in 3?
I'm pretty sure it's 2. I think because he's like, hey, what kind of gun you got there? It's a Beretta. Oh yeah, prove it. He goes, sure, we'll shoot you through the door and you can examine the bullets.
The one thing that drove me crazy about the sequel of Lethal Weapon was like they post facto, maybe it's not technically a retcon, but they post facto tack on that one of the guys in Diplomatic Immunity's crew killed Riggs' wife so that it would piss him off, and he's like, no, I'll kill you.
Really?
Yes, in number 2. They're like, no, just kidding. This guy killed her.
Wow, I don't remember that at all.
For what reason, we don't know. Yeah.
They just gave him a little bit more motivation through a retcon?
Yeah, just to make him a little more angry or whatever.
That'll do it.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I was saying that this one was sort of 100% like colorblind and like wanting to like not address race at all. But they did have a moment with the little kids next door from Dixie, after the Dixie house blew up, and the kids were trying to get the one guy with the 3D glasses not to talk to the cops, and he's talking about oh, Mama said cops kill black people.
Oh right, yeah.
And so they actually, I mean, I guess they did touch on it a little bit, huh?
Some commentary there.
Yeah.
I like that scene a lot, though. I like how Murtaugh handles the kid. He's like, we're going to get you some ice cream. You like ice cream? And he's like, I like ice cream.
What's so funny about that scene is this guy who's had so many fucking kids of his own and neighbors' kids doesn't know how to handle kids all of a sudden. Yeah, no, he just all of a sudden was like, what do I do? How do I talk to a kid?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It
seems like he would have the wherewithal to
right away, right?
Yeah,
he knew exactly what he would want. He might have had something on him already.
Yeah.
Just the thing that would keep your kid calm. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The magic item.
Mama says police mistreat black people. Is that true? Yeah, is it true? Is that true? Is it true?
Overall, I mean, again, I think, you talk about structure and story. This one, again, fully clear on exactly where you are in space and time during this movie. There's no confusion as to, what's going on, who anybody is. It's very clear and plain as day exactly what's happening. Yeah. The storyline is extremely clear. I think it's a great story. I think the fact that they made Riggs such a previous badass that's going through all this stuff, in his head. Mm-hmm. But it also, they used it for the film, he becomes a sniper at the end. There was a comedic moment between them in the shooting range when he makes the smiley face out of the thing.
Well, yeah. And they spend 15 minutes on that scene. They're just so long.
Yeah.
And then for the smiley face scene, he's like, oh yeah, that was a good shot at 50 yards, and then he pushes it and he for 10 minutes. He gets all the way out there. He looks back at the camera, he gets fires 13 rounds and then brings it back, and it's coming back really slowly, and we see the smile. Okay, so we take this really long time to do this scene, and it's funny, and obviously it works comedically and everything, and then just 2 scenes later, right after the Dixie house blows up, right after they talk to the kids, they go confront Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins gets an eggnog through the chest, and all of a sudden Riggs can't hit shit, and that helicopter's like right there.
I know, because he took a full round at that helicopter, right? Like, I mean, they should have at least showed him connecting with the helicopter, like a few ricocheted bullets or something.
Put some obstacles in front of him so that it's a hard, it's like, or whatever. It's like, I don't know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah,
but it was like they spent so much time setting up how great he is with a handgun, by the way.
With the handgun,
not just like a sniper rifle or whatever, like with a handgun, and then he can't hit it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. They almost should have had Murtaugh do that, and like Riggs should have been like held up or something, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's. But I mean, whatever. It's a movie, right? Gary Busey had to get away.
It's just like it's a funny thing to point out. This isn't the kind of movie where you question some of that stuff. I mean, it's just the movie's there for fun. It's, and if you're not having fun with it, then you're not going to enjoy it really.
I wanted to bring up quick about since this is part of this as well, is Richard Donner, Dick Donner, directed this film. This film is totally different than The Omen. This film is totally different than The Goonies. This film is totally different than Superman. Right. Like, talk about a guy that could nail genre and just crush it every single time. Brilliant.
And maybe it's a matter of like taste and sensibility versus being sort of pigeonholed in your career, but like a lot of people kind of like end up staying in a certain lane.
Yep.
And you could even say that about Shane Black, for instance. But you're right. Like, that's interesting to point out about Richard Donner, about how like seamlessly he was able to like switch to these genres and do them sort of masterfully. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're not like looking at The Omen like, well, it wasn't that scary. It's like
great. It's great.
yeah. And you're not looking at Goonies like, well, that wasn't that good of a kids movie. I mean, he's really more of an adult director than
not at all.
For kids.
Yeah.
And, yeah, exactly. It's like he's able to like sort of flawlessly slip between those things. This is what I mean. This is probably his most famous movie. You think, right? I mean, like, or people would recognize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like through all the tributes and stuff that I've seen since he's passed away, people have posted all different movies from him, depending on what they're interested in. Like the horror geeks are posting Omen. The comic book people are posting Superman.
It's all for you.
It's all for you, Damien. That was scary as hell. No pun intended. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The guy could move, and it wasn't long in between these films either. Like he was going, it was the next film in his, in his career was a totally a change of tone, a change of genre.
Oh, yeah, Scrooged, right? Was the next one?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Which was one of those that kind of mixed horror with fantasy and comedy really well.
Yeah.
I wonder where he's going. Perhaps to Harlem.
I kind of didn't realize how old he was when he passed away. It was
91.
90s, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, 91. He lived a good long life. And the amount of the outpouring of people that have worked with him, in particular, Josh Brolin, who was in Goonies back in the day. He even said, he wrote this long post when he passed away. It was just like, this is the person that kind of got me started, got a lot of people started. Not only was he one that would give you a shot, but he would also help you and coach you and mentor you, like more of like a father figure on set. He wasn't one of those directors that was just there to direct a movie. He was really intimate with his cast and like very close with them, and I think that shows why he was so beloved and why he was so successful. And that's all part of it.
I feel like we touched on quite a bit, especially toward the beginning. It's obviously kind of a fun and well established genre, but it was definitely interesting kind of going through and seeing sort of the things that led up to that. I mean, so Lethal Weapon, all the time will be cited as like the sort of buddy cop movie, and so then people want to go back and like, well, where did this kind of come from, and was it just born out of whole cloth? And like, well, no, there was 48 Hours. I mean, even Freebie and the Bean, which I don't know, if that movie like was successful in any way, Freebie and the Bean, that is, like, do people see it? Do people know what it was?
Said the box office was $30 million at that time. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, maybe. Freebie and the Bean was definitely a movie that was forgotten in the intervening years.
I never heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I frankly, I hadn't heard of it either. I heard about it on Joe Dante and Josh Olson's podcast, The Movies That Made Me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like one of the guys, maybe actually one of the writers of Dolomite Was My Name, either Larry Karaszewski or Scott Alexander. One of the two of them, I think, brought that one up as a movie that they liked, and I ended up checking that out, a little while ago. But had it not been for that recommendation, I would have never heard of it either.
That's why we need more people like Joe Dante and Larry Karaszewski to keep the curation alive. Those guys, cinephiles is the definition there.
Yeah, and it's like, I think movie nerds of a certain era, or people who sort of became movie nerds in the 70s or something, perhaps remember that one. But I don't think it was out on certain home video for a while there. I mean, I know it's out now on Blu-ray, but I think there was a gap there in time where it'd be accessible, which also kind of hurts a certain longevity of a movie.
Yeah,
with subsequent generations. But obviously the sort of cop pairing movies, they happen quite a bit. I mean, 48 Hours is kind of a remake of Stray Dog, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
His gun gets taken.
Exactly. Yeah,
and he has to kind of get
Forgot to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. There's always like something like when you get to the end of it, like, shh, I forgot to talk about that. Yeah, but the Stray Dog thing, it's like Stray Dog was definitely very straight. There wasn't much comedy in it at all. 48 Hours is pretty straight as well, but like, you finally get to the template that everyone ends up using, which is the Lethal Weapon template, where it's like you got the two odd couple partners thrown in together, and then they end up solving a mystery and saving the day.
And they're usually matched up unwittingly too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, again, something that ties into screwball comedy. I mean, it's often, the reason that the wild card and the sort of stick in the mud character are put together. It's, out of these circumstances where they'd normally never be together. I mean, and in a way, like, I think we talked about this with the Hitchcock on a Train thing with Lady Vanishes, how those two characters kind of embody some of that quality, where it's like, the Michael Redgrave character is, kind of the wild card, and then the sort of heiress or whatever she was gonna have to go home and get married, and didn't want to, but was gonna do her duty anyway, and like they hate each other and then have to kind of like solve this mystery together. It's something that I guess I hadn't really considered until watching these three movies sort of back to back, that, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is kind of in that screwball comedy tradition. And it's like, part of it is, I think, some of the car crashes and things like that through the streets of San Francisco, and Freebie and the Bean reminded me a lot of What's Up, Doc, which was, a sort of revivalist version of screwball comedy from the 70s. But, just sort of some of the other, template things with it, with how these characters interact with one another and help each other grow. It makes for a good pairing. But it is interesting, kind of like how it's like screwball comedy for dudes is the buddy cop.
Yeah.
Jack, tell me a story.
Fuck you.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
All right, next week, we will be looking at some Motown thrillers. I like this title, Jeremy. That was good.
Yeah.
This is a block of thrillers that are all set against the backdrop of Detroit. Very excited because I haven't seen any of these, obviously not the very new one that just got released. But we're talking about Narc from 2002, Don't Breathe from 2016, and No Sudden Move from 2021. Good block.
Yeah, no, it'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't remember Narc.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I think you're gonna end up liking that one. Yeah, and of the three, that's the only one I've seen so far. But this is gonna be, I think, a rarity for the old Grindhouse Institute, because these are all movies released in the 21st century. All three of them.
All right, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
G'day. Or ciao.
If you think I'm gonna eat the world's lousiest Christmas turkey by myself, you're crazy.
I'm not crazy.
I know.
Oh, good. Let's eat.